Welcome to This Week in the Simulacrum, where we bring you weekly dispatches from hyperreality. I'm MJ Corey, and this week we have an analog subculture that got eaten alive in 2 weeks flat. The Met Gala sold its soul and called it art, and the world's smartest researchers couldn't stay in the same room. Trump almost got shot again, and the media establishment became its own breaking news. A publisher started labeling books like organic produce, and 70 artists made something beautiful inside the belly of the beast. Let's get into it. All over the algorithm, we're seeing discourse about how Gen Z has started building handmade computers from thrifted parts as a direct rejection of corporate surveillance tech. They called them Cyberdecks.
Girlies are building Cyberdecks, and I wonder why. Maybe it's because we're tired of tech bros controlling everything.
Within the same 2-week news cycle, a startup called Rabbit announced a $500 commercial product using the exact same name, aesthetic, and target demographic. The subculture was co-opted before it could even finish naming itself. Next up, this year's Met Gala theme is Fashion is Art. And the institution underlined that point by naming its new galleries after Condé Nast and installing Jeff Bezos and Lauren Sanchez Bezos as honorary chairs. As I reported in a recent Instagram post, the Met is literally selling its walls to the people it used to gatekeep. In other news, Neural IPS is the world's most prestigious AI conference. China just announced it will no longer fund researchers to attend and will penalize papers published there, after a policy dispute that appeared to exclude Chinese researchers, who make up over half of all lead authors. We built artificial intelligence, but we could not manage to build a shared room to discuss it in. Now here's a really good postmodern case study. On April 25th, shots were fired at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. And if you've never thought about what the Correspondents' Dinner actually is, now is a really good time. This is an annual ritual in which the journalists, whose job is to critique and report on power, put on black ties and fancy gowns to sit down to a formal dinner with that power and give each other awards and call it a tradition. It is theoretically one of the most self-referential events in American public life, and that's before anyone pulls a gun out. An armed man stormed the lobby. Trump was evacuated. And within minutes, hundreds of journalists, still in their tuxedos and gowns, still at their tables, pulled out their phones and began filing first-person dispatches. The press exists to witness, document, and narrate events. With this incident, the press became the story. The people whose professional identity is structured around not being the subject were suddenly inescapably the subject. Goffman would call this a complete collapse of the front and backstage. I would say the dinner has always been the story, but that night made it impossible to pretend otherwise. Also, an update to last week's story. After a major publisher canceled a novel suspected of being generated with AI, the industry's response was to create a certification label to stick onto book covers that reads "Human authored, edited, and designed." Written by a human is now a premium marketing claim. And finally, Mark Fisher wrote Capitalist Realism in 2009, the book that argued, citing other theorists, that it's easier to imagine the end of the world than it is to imagine the end of capitalism. He died in 2017. A new film about his life and ideas just got covered by The Guardian. It was made collectively by 70 artists through an Instagram account, using the tools of the machine to dream beyond it. The filmmakers call it an evocation of failed, promised futures. In my opinion, that's not defeat. That's exactly what Fisher was asking us to do. In some personal news, my media theory manifesto, Deconstructing the Kardashians, out next week, was featured by the New York Times, and Book Forum and a rave review by the iconic culture critic Philippa Snow. Next week, I'll transcend the boundaries of my social media home base and meet readers in real life on book tour. Hope to see you all there. Every story this week was about someone or something trying to stand outside the system and ending up in it anyway. I would say that the artists that are trying to make an ode to Mark Fisher are doing their very best and working with the tools available to them. Something I'm asked a lot, especially with the conversations I've been having in support of my book, is how can we adequately, sufficiently stand outside the system that seems impossible to escape, which is social media and its algorithms and the surveillance of big tech. The answer that I give is more and more the same, which is we need to look around at each other and really relish material reality and pay attention to what it is, what's happening in our communities around us, our friends and our family. But the truth is, even with how much research I've done for this book, all the things I've learned studying American media history, I've ended up with more questions than answers. If you guys have any thoughts, let me know in the comments. And thanks for watching this week in the Simulacrum. And in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.